So kind of what started as me just wanting to like write down and reflect kind of why meditation has been beneficial to me kind of turned into me wanting to make this video and share some information on what meditation is and what it isn't. And you know, I think there's a lot of people out there who've tried to start a meditation practice before but kind of gone into it and then just been like, okay, what the hell am I doing? Because I definitely remember when I was there. So hopefully I can just share some information that you find useful. And definitely, as a disclaimer, I'm not claiming to be like a meditation teacher, but it's just me wanting to share what I've learned and kind of what's worked for me and what I've been doing. And honestly, what works for me might not work for you. So if you're watching this and then you kind of just feel like, okay, this isn't for me, it's all good, like no hard feelings, because I think, you know, in meditation and in life, we're all just trying to figure out what works best for us. So one of the first things I kind of want to talk about is like this common misperception that meditation is this magic pill that will instantly make you more happier, more healthier, and feel more balanced. And although meditation does have the potential to alleviate us from our suffering and allow us to enjoy life more, it's not something that comes right away. It's something that takes a lot of time and patience and concentration. I think that kind of comes from our era of instant gratification and the Instagram era, where the terms like self-help and self-care have really like blown up into this like whole industry. And because of that, we're often misinformed and misguided to believe that you know, meditation along with other things is just some quick fix. But we have to realize that, you know, it's something that takes a lot of time, and it is you need to be dedicated to it, essentially. Kind of on the same note, I think it's important to know that, you know, it's not the actual just like sitting in meditation that's gonna like relieve you from your stresses and your anxieties and your worries and all that. It's actually that there's like a more fundamental change happening in how you see and you relate to your thoughts and your perceptions and your misconceptions and your feelings and your judgments and all of that, you know. So it's much more than just like saying, oh, I'm just gonna sit down for a little bit and so I can be a little happier, a little calmer. You know, the change is actually much more deeper than that. The second thing, I guess it can also be seen like as a misconception, is that meditation is all about like not thinking and kind of just makes you like a passive observer in everyday life. And you know, yes, a big part of meditation is about being quiet and still and silent, like quieting the mind. But you know, we have to remember that like the natural function of the mind is to think. So it's not like so much that we're trying to suppress our thoughts or like stop our thinking, but it's so much more like we're trying to be aware as thoughts are arising and being able to recognize and differentiate between thoughts that maybe we are just creating in our head and what is actually reality. I was actually listening to a podcast the other day. I think it was like Oprah's podcast or something like this. She had like a black author as one of her guests, and he kind of like gave a really good example on this. And he was saying like he was at the airport, right, and he was like packing up his box, taping it up, weighing it and everything like that, and he could see and feel like a police officer staring at him, and he was like, oh, like getting irritated, like he's like, oh, I hope this officer doesn't come over to me, like I'm in a rush, like I don't have time for this. And you know, and then slowly he sees like the officer come over and he asks this guy, hey, like what's your name? And the guy's like, fuck, like come on, like really does this have to be happening to me right now? And the guy tells him his name, and the officer is like, oh my god, I knew it, like I love you, me and my wife have read all your books, we think you're so great. I was just talking to my coworker over there saying that you know, it has to be him, and it's you, like. And then he gets an autograph and a photo, but in the back of his mind the whole time he was thinking like, oh, I'm getting racially profiled, this guy is like gonna stop me and ask me a bunch of questions when I don't really have the time. But in reality, the thing is like the guy was standing over there like admiring him and like wanting to come and talk to him and like get his photo and get his autograph, you know? So I think that's like a perfect example of how our thoughts can create a false reality for us, you know? To the second point, that like meditation makes you a passive observer, actually it's more of the opposite. It just makes you more thoughtful and more aware. You respond more from a space of awareness. And yeah, there are definitely times where you're gonna have to use strength, whether that's verbally or physically, and that doesn't just like go away because you're someone who practices meditation. It just like means that you respond from a place of more understanding, because essentially you understand that like yourself, everyone else is suffering, and how you are perceiving the world is completely just based on your conditioning and the environment that you grew up in, and that person is responding in the way that they feel is right based on their conditioning and the things that they've experienced in life, you know? And then you gain a better understanding of not only yourself but everyone around you, and that makes you more compassionate and more understanding and more loving. Of course, I'm saying all these things and they're pretty easy to conceptualize, but definitely the hardest part is putting it into practice in your everyday life. And yeah, it's important to, you know, carve out time for yourself to meditate, but I think the most important thing is that you see it manifesting in your everyday life, you know, change manifesting in your everyday life. Like for example, say there's this situation, yeah, that makes you pissed, and say you're yelling, cussing, maybe you're throwing things, your body is like hot and sweaty, and you're just letting your emotions like run through you like crazy, and 9 out of 10 times you act this way. But say like on the 10th time you still get angry, yeah, but you're able to step back, and maybe you don't express yourself vocally, maybe you don't express yourself physically, maybe you're just like able to like sit in your anger. You don't respond with violence or with vocal force, whatever it is, you know? And that right there, that's change. That's positive change that you can see in your daily life. And you know, 1 out of 10 times it's going to turn into 2, and then 3, and then 4, and it's just going to constantly create this cycle where you're able to recognize your emotions, and you're gonna be able to just sit in that space without giving it a reaction. And I think another important benefit of meditation is that, you know, rather than going through life blindly and not really understanding like what we crave and what we dislike and what we're trying to grasp at because we love, or what we're like pushing away because we hate or we dislike, we're actually for the first time probably trying to get to know those things about us and understand these like really intricate parts of us that ultimately determine whether we feel like we're happy or we're sad, or we feel pleasure in our life or we're dissatisfied with our life. You're really making a commitment to yourself to really get to know who you are inside and how you're relating to the world as it is, and how your thoughts and everything are shaping your reality. I think it's important to go into meditation with the intention of like wanting to get to know yourself, rather than like, oh, I'm super stressed and I'm super anxious, so I want to use meditation to cure these things. It will come, but the main focus should be to like really get to know who you are. I feel like this video has gotten so long already, and I did not expect it to. There's some other things I want to talk about, like more like applicable things that you can do in your meditation practice. So I guess I will do another video. Yeah, so hopefully you found something helpful in this video. So until part 2.